This is a quick refresher for people who are struggling still with learning how to cite resources. And I want to just point out before we get started that there are many online citation websites, many of which will do the work for you for free, and all you often need to do is include just even a small portion of the resource information, such as the name of the resource or the author or the ISBN number where that exists. We will constantly use the APA format, so if you do use one of these websites, make sure that you specifically select the APA format. The websites that come to mind are websites like EasyBib or Son of Citation. There are others where you can actually pay and they'll save the resources for you, which is actually not a bad idea. Websites like BibMe also do that as well. Now, when you go onto the website, you'll have to identify not only that you're using APA, not MLA, not Chicago, not Turabian, not Harvard. There are a few different ones. APA and MLA are the two most common ones, and APA is the one that we always use in the social services field. So unless you change your education and go into something like sciences, learning how to do this particular one will always help you. And the second thing that I wanted to point out about this is that it's very important you pick a good source in the first place. So if you don't have, for example, the author of the source, then you're going to have difficulty getting a citation, and that's because your source is not a very good one. Sometimes the author is an organization. So for example, if you have the Autism Society of BC, that's a credible source, and that would be your author, even though it's also the publisher. Okay. Now, very important for us to understand that crediting sources is a legal and ethical issue. You can write the world's greatest paper all in your own words and thoughts and be asked to leave a college, not just Riverside, but any university, anywhere, if you do not properly cite your sources. This is becoming a bigger and bigger issue. So if it seems like I'm just being uptight about it, I'm doing it because this is such a significant issue at any educational institution, and students sometimes literally lose their ability to stay in those institutions because they are inadvertently not using people's work properly. So it's both a legal issue and an ethical issue. The problem I think that most people struggle with is that they think they only need to cite information that is a direct quote, and that's not true. You have to cite any information that is new to you. Even when you are summarizing it or providing it in new words, you should always indicate where you got that. When you are citing something that is a direct quotation, of course you'll need to cite that as well. And this part is critical. Whenever something is in direct words used from somebody else, I must put it in quotation marks. Even if I said where I got it, if I didn't indicate that it was somebody else's words, then I would be considered to be plagiarizing. And the way that I show that again is by putting it in quotation marks. Now sometimes people think, well, I'll change one word or two and now it becomes my word. Nope, that's not accurate. Unless you are substantially changing things and summarizing them or paraphrasing them in your own words, you are still quoting people. So you may think that changing a single word or two makes it your own. It doesn't, and you're always better off to take the conservative approach. One of the things that sometimes people struggle with is that they think they have to use tons of quotations in their papers. And actually, most people, including me, would prefer to read a paper where you have demonstrated that you understood your sources instead of just quoting them. So quotations should be used in a limited way and a selective way. And I normally use them when I think they are very succinct ways of capturing the main idea. In other words, they say it better than I could. Otherwise, I really want to see you put things into your own words to demonstrate that you understand them and to help the reader understand them. So that takes away the need to do the quotation marks, makes your life easier, but you still have to cite where you got it from. So as I said, using an online style guide is a great idea, and some really great resources exist out there, even if you're going to do it on your own. And if you still need help understanding how and when to cite, then actually look that up. And there's a really great resource from Princeton University that I've sent to some of you that is a really quick sort of one-page walkthrough of the times when you should cite. The simplest way to do this is to keep your sources as you take notes. So what I like to do is use a form, and I'll actually jump out of this for a moment and show you an example of this. I created a form for myself, which I simply call my reading notes form. Here's an example of it. And you can see that what I did when I first started to use this source is I went on to something like EasyBib, and I took this source and got it properly formatted, and then I cut and pasted it at the top of this form. Then as I go through reading this, I've got the page number I took it from, and in my own words, anything that I have summarized. Down here you can see that I've quoted this because this portion is specifically from the author. Okay, so now if I went back and I decided to use that, I would know I would have to put it in quotation marks. So a simple format like that can work. You don't have to make a typed table, but you're welcome to. Even if you're just keeping it on a piece of handwritten paper, this is a good idea. So back to our PowerPoint. Online sources. Oops, I forgot. I've got to go back here. Here we go. For online sources, always make sure that you need to keep that information as well. Now, if you download a book, let's say, and it's like a PDF format of the book, you can normally consider that as a print resource. But if it's a website, or if it's something that's in what they call HTML language, in other words, it's in the format of a website, then you're going to cite it as a website. When you go on to something like Son of Citation or EasyBib, there'll be little tabs that ask you whether it's a journal, a website, a newspaper, a book, a magazine, a chapter. And once you do start using that, your life gets so much easier because it walks you through it. And I'm going to do a little bit of that at the end of this with a fictitious resource. One of the things that screws people up is the idea that they have to do a resource list at the end, which most of us are familiar with as we go through high school. But we have to now start doing this thing called in-text citations. And people get themselves really confused about this, and they don't need to. It's quite simple. And in fact, if you cited a resource on something like EasyBib, it will ask you whether or not you want to cut and paste the bibliographic citation or what they call the parenthetical, which is the same thing as an in-text. And again, I'll show this to you. So what's important when we're doing it for the papers here at Riverside is that whenever you have done an in-text citation, you want to make sure that you include the author of that work, the year, and the page number. Nothing else should be there. Some of you have actually added in things like a web address or the title of the reference, and none of that goes there. Just these three things goes there, so that if I want to know the resource, I can take that piece of information and go to your source list to figure it out. As a general rule, if I have gone through a paragraph and had any information in that paragraph that is not of my own, and that's normally the case because this is not an opinion paper I'm writing, I should have at least one source in that paragraph. If I see paragraph after paragraph in an essay and there is no source cited, I know that plagiarism has likely occurred. So take out the almost. Every paragraph should have at least one citation in it. The only exceptions to that might be your introductory paragraph and your conclusion paragraph. Now, if you have two or more sentences where you have cited somebody else's information in that paragraph, you don't have to put a citation in each sentence. You can put it after the last sentence. If that's a bit confusing, what I'm saying is put it after you finish talking about that person, but it still should be in that paragraph. So you always put your citation before the end of the sentence. So here's the most common example right here. Oops, again, I have to go back. I'll just use the pen to highlight for this particular one. So this is the most common example, and you can see that at the end I've added in the parentheses the author, the date, and the page. I'm not even going to worry about whether you have the commas and so forth. In fact, this comma is probably inaccurate. But you can see that it's in parentheses and it's before the period here. And I can tell that means that the sentence that you just got came from somebody named Cole and the version of their writing was 1990. Sometimes we actually put the name of the author right into our sentence, and that's fine. If we do that, what's left for me is to say the year, so I put that, and the page. Okay, and sometimes I even, this is rare, put the year and the author in there, and all that's left for me to put in the parenthetical is the number. For most of you, this is the most common version here, and it's easy to do if you just keep on doing it consistently. Author's name, year, and the page you took that information from. At the end should be a reference list, and what we want you to remember is if it's something that you've used as a parenthetical resource, it must be in this list. But what if you used a book and you never really went and took any specific idea from that book and put it into your paper? Do you still need to put it in the reference list even if it wasn't used as a parenthetical? Yes. So even if you read something and it just confirmed your thinking or got you started on your research, it should go there. And we always list alphabetically by author. Generally, the most common way in the APA is to put the title of the work in italics, but when you use a website, it'll automatically do that. So here's an example of how it might look if you're using as a book, and you can always pause this and use this format if you have to do something that way, or if you had a website, it would go this way. Notice that when you use a website, if you're putting when it was retrieved, you're going to put that information under this heading, retrieved from. Now, a lot of times websites don't include this information right here, which is the date of publication. So what they do instead is you put no date or you leave it blank, and it will put N period D period here. But down here where it says retrieved from, it will give you a date, an opportunity to say when you collected it. And the reason that matters is because sometimes websites change from one week to the next, and that helps the person who's reading your paper to know why it might not stay the same. Here's some more examples. And here's an example of a book that's found online. So you can see that it is written almost as though it was a book, and then it says where it was retrieved here. Okay, so let's go and take a look at one of these websites, and we will use, in this case, where's my EasyBib? I think it's up there today, but we'll use EasyBib. This is one that I like to use. Now, I have an account there because I'm doing some resource work myself, but you can do it for free. So you can see it sees me right off the bat, but I'm going to log out just so it thinks I'm a stranger. Okay, so here we go. Now I'm going to go where it says research. Okay, oops, bibliography. So, all right. So we're going to do, make sure we go where it says APA, and that gets us started. That's our first thing to do. I don't want to do this right now. Maybe it won't let me do it this one unless I sign up. All right, maybe it won't let me sign up. So let's go to, sorry about that. Let's go to Son of Citation. Okay, there's Citation Machine. Son of Citation is also called Citation Machine. Okay, so here we go. When I select APA on this particular website, it's the default. So I'm going to go there and I'm going to choose a book. Now, I happen to have a book right here with me that you cannot see, and it's the Dictionary of Psychology. So in this particular case, I'm actually going to just put in the name of the author and see if it automatically recognizes him. So there we go, the Penguin Dictionary of Psychology. I want to make sure that it's the same book that I actually have. So this one is the second edition, and it is from the year 1985. So I would need to go down and see if I see it here. Well, I don't see it here. So what that means is I have to go back and do a manual a citation. Don't feel bad about it. It's not that hard of a thing to do. So I'm going to put manual entry mode. And I actually wanted you to see how to do this. So I'll put the author's first name here, and it's Arthur. Second name is Reber, and he's the author. If I wanted to add more than one author, then I would click here and it would give me more space. I don't need to do that. And this is called the Dictionary of Psychology. And it's the second edition. There's no volume in this case, I don't believe, but there is a second edition. So I'll put second. And I didn't use any specific page numbers, but if I did, I would type them there. And how do I find the page, or sorry, the city? Easy. I open to what's called the title page, and you'll see that's where the title is. And on the back side of it, it'll tell me where it was published. In this particular one, it says London. Sometimes it says more than one, and what you do is you pick the one that's closest to where you live. And the country, of course, is the UK. Where are we here? It's way down here, United Kingdom. And the publisher in this case is Penguin. I didn't realize that he had gone into this, but I guess after Batman put him out of business, he had to do that. We already know it's 1985, and I don't have a chapter in this case, but if I did, I could put it. So now I push create citation, and I get this lovely little thing here. And I can copy and paste this, okay? And mine won't let me actually do that because I don't have Flash that's proper right now. But I should be able to copy and paste if it was your computer. And what if I want, so then I'm going to copy and paste that and just put it into my actual, no, I'm not going to do that right now. My actual list, okay? And I can copy and paste it and just put it in alphabetical order. But what if I want to do the in-text citation? Well, I click on parenthetical, and there it is, and it gives me all that, and it just says that there's my copy and paste. And it doesn't have page numbers, right, because I didn't use one, but pretend I did. Let's say I use pages 201, and it automatically does that. And again, I can copy and paste that, except again, I don't have Flash. Anyways, that's what I can do. Don't select the title, and I can go and put that into my text right behind my work, okay? What if I'm doing a website? Let's go and do a website here, and I'm going to make up a fictitious website. By the way, this particular website allows me to now become a member as well and save my work. But you can do it for 28 hours, I think, for free as well. So, all right, so I'm going to pick a fictitious website, and we're going to call the website by, well, maybe I'll actually even know this website. So I'm going to put Autism Society, BC, and see if it finds it. Well, look at that. It does find it. So great. Now, in this particular case, I'm going to pretend I'm using the very first page of it. But in some cases, I wouldn't be. So I might, let's do this. I might put down services. I think they have a page called services. And no, it doesn't. So if it didn't, I would have to do this and do this. So sub-edit. But I will go back and I'll pretend right now that it's the main page. So I select that. Here's what it says. And it asks me whether or not I want to put any other information in there. So it doesn't know the publisher or sponsor. I need to actually add that stuff. So I'm going to continue to the final step, and I'm going to actually add that. So the author, well, who's my author? Well, the author is the Autism Society of BC in this case. Okay, so it's Autism BC, and sometimes it asks me to say who it is that does that. I'm going to call that the editor. Who's the publisher? Well, sorry to sound like I am beating a drum, but guess what? It's Autism BC. Okay. When was it published? I don't know, but I do know that I accessed it today. So if I can't tell this, and sometimes I can by going down to the bottom of the page where it says About, I'm going to create the citation, and there it is. See how it says no date? And it tells me the name of the page, tells me who I did it with, and there's my thing. Again, I can copy and paste it into my list, or I can choose the parenthetical again, and it gives me that. Well, I have to put my source in there, Autism BC, and my year. Well, all I know is that it's 2015. It's still there right now. Okay, and there's my parenthetical that I can use. Okay, so I need to have that information there if I am going to be able to submit this paper. So let me go back and summarize the key things I want you to hear. First, you must cite any information that is not your own, even if you're not quoting. If you are quoting, you must cite the information, and it must be in quotation marks. What do we mean by citing the information? We mean two things. First, you must have an in-text, also called a parenthetical, right after you have used that information. So, anytime you have information that's not your own, you should cite it right away in that paragraph. If you have more than one sentence that is from somebody else, cite it after that second or third sentence. But don't cite it 4 paragraphs later. And the second thing we mean is that any resource you use should show up in your reference list in correct APA format. You must include things like the author, the publisher, and the title. If you cannot identify a publisher or an author, there is a very good chance that your source is not an appropriate source. So, for example, something like an anonymous blog is not likely to be a good source, and you can tell that because they don't have their names in many cases. Hopefully this is of some help to you, but if it's not, you're always able to send me your work in draft and check with me to make sure it's okay. It's a far smarter thing to do that and get corrected before you submit it than after. And finally, many of you have come and seen me, but when I have told you how to do the citation changes, you have not made the changes. It's really important that you receive the feedback that you're given. In this particular case, when it comes to citations, colleges and universities are not able to be flexible, so it's important that you get this done to the correct detail. Hope that helps, and if not, as I said, please get back to me and ask for feedback person to person.